Hey, Michael J.
So, second episode this week. We have
going back to back.
Yeah, so an exclusive preview we have gotten from the nice people in Renton, Washington at Wizards of the Coast. It is
Zhur-Taa Goblin.
Zhur-Taa Goblin. So this goblin, Berserker, costs a green and a red, and has base stats of 2/2, but in addition has the Riot mechanic attached to it.
Right, and Riot obviously is this creature enters the battlefield with your choice of a +1/+1 counter or haste.
So Zhur-Taa Goblin for 2 mana, 2/2 starting, is either a 2/2 haster for 2 or basically a 3/3 creature for 2. So it's kind of like a Rip Clan Crasher / Scabcan Mauler split card.
Yeah, I mean, in many ways it's like really it's a Watch Wolf with upside.
Oh, that's a good way of thinking about it also.
Right, like the floor is a 3/3 for 2. You get Watch Wolf, and really having a 2/2 with a +1/+1 counter is generally slightly better than Watch Wolf with some of the synergies and things, you know?
Oh, yeah, so like if you've got like Simic Ascendancy or something, it counts as a +1/+1 counter, or Hardened Scale, something like that, right?
Right. But then the fact that you can cash in the counter and instead get a 2/2 haste, it gives you a lot of tactical options, you know, like finish off a Planeswalker at a key moment or go for a bigger Alpha Strike.
Oh, yeah. So I was thinking like maybe a little bit different, because I think just because I was more literal with the casting costs. Like obviously Watch Wolf is a green-white card. So I was thinking like Zhur-Taa Goblin is like a Rip Clan Crasher with upside. So Rip Clan Crasher is probably a worse card than Watch Wolf, though, right? Like that card never really got played.
Definitely.
Outside of block, right? It got played in block.
A little played in standard, but not too much. It was fringe.
So, you know, a 2/2 haster for 2 is at least fringe, I guess, and that's one version of Zhur-Taa Goblin. I think, like, if you want to get the last points in, or like you said, like sneak in to bang up a Planeswalker, that 2/2 haster mode is something that's available to you. But I think most of the time, you know, just tapping out 2 mana on turn 2, you're going to want the 3/3 mode, right?
Well, on turn 2, it depends. I mean, I think in general you prefer the 3/3, but it depends, right? Because think of it this way. You're playing against a Jeskai deck that you already know has a ton of Deafening Clarions and Lightning Strikes or whatever, where the difference between a 2/2 and a 3/3 is very little. It's going to die. And so why not get the 2 points of damage in?
Sure.
But on the other side of it, it's, well, maybe if you make it a 2/2, they don't need to.
Oh, yeah. You don't dangle enough of a target for them, maybe.
So I do think that the majority of the time you're going to want a 3/3, just because 3/3 is a stronger board presence. You're getting slightly more material, but the tactical implications of 2/2, it's like how, I mean, Brainstorm is the better Jace the Mind Sculptor ability, but -1 to unsummon something is a really great option when you use it.
Oh, I think that I must have brainstormed more than I unsummoned, but I unsummoned a lot.
Oh, yeah. And I think it might surprise you how often you're going to 2/2 haste with this guy. I wouldn't be surprised. I would guess you 3/3 the majority of the time, but man, the 2/2 haste is going to have so many tactical implications.
So we think that Zhur-Taa Goblin's going to be, this is a player, right? Like it's going to be, you know,
of course,
played in standard for sure, I think.
I mean, Watch Wolf would see, like, Watch Wolf's already, like, I'm in the door for Watch Wolf. And then it's even a Goblin.
Oh.
There's a couple of things you could do. Maybe it's not worth it, but there's a couple of things you could do with Goblin.
Oh, there's some Goblin. There are like 2 different Goblin Lords in standard right now, aren't there?
Here's a great Goblin payoff. Unclaimed Territory.
Just to get the green for free?
An untapped duel between 4 Stomping Grounds, 4 Unclaimed Territory, like, and then I don't know if you play Rootbound Crag.
I play Rootbound Crag.
Depends on how fast you probably do. But like, is that you could play this guy in a Goblin Chain Whirler deck.
You had Goblin Chain Whirler.
So I I think this guy is a for sure play. The question is, what is red-green aggro going to look like? Because this is not so incredible of a body. This is not a Fleecemane Lion, for instance. This isn't the type of card that you're like, oh, yeah, my giant 6/7s, my deck of fatties is going to make an exception for this 2-drop. It's not that kind of a card. But it's a nice role player for somebody who would like an aggressive strategy. Like Watchwolf is... Red decks don't always get such nice things.
Well, what if there was a deck that was just tons and tons of haste, right? Like, the Riot mechanic gives you a lot of haste. And I think that at various times in standards of various years, there have been attempts to be made of just like tons and tons of haste. And, if you've got pretty good bodies... that you can, avoid summoning sickness. You just put people on the back foot. It's like playing like Burn, it might not be the most efficient conversion of mana to power, but it's a more efficient conversion of mana to damage if you shorten the game.
Sure. I mean, it's totally fine. A 2/2 haste for 2 is not the greatest thing ever, but if you are explicitly just trying to be all haste, it's not the worst. So the fact that you have this option of getting the Watchwolf that you'll probably use a ton is pretty great.
Yeah, and plus he looks like a rock and roll star. He's got like a spiked baseball bat. He seems to be beating up on the Boros there. I like him.
Yeah, I mean, it does look like they tried to put Mark Herberhall. This is like Mark Herberhall's invitational card. This is. I'm just picturing Mark Herberhall's in Hawaii, just boom, 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 boom.
That guy, he did real good work with his Scab Clan Maulers in that tournament.
Oh yeah. So, there's also the outstanding question of how many +1/+1 counter synergies are we going to see. Like for instance, we've already seen some of the Simic cards care about how many +1/+1 counters things have. And, this guy can incidentally give you an extra counter.
Sure.
And you never know what kind of hardened scales type shenanigans are going to come along. Like just recently they revealed the Bolrak Clan Crusher that has a tap ability where you remove a +1/+1 counter from a creature you control to deal 2 damage to any target. So
that's a very powerful ability.
Right, and so the fact that there's these little implications, like you can get an extra shock in your draft deck out of this guy. There's a deceptively large amount of action there.
Sure. When we got this particular preview card, I have to say it really warmed my heart because for me, my head did go to Scab Clan Mauler rather than Watchwolf. Although I do see that this is really a Rip Clan Crasher / Watchwolf split card. I was just real literal on that red, but right. I don't know if you recall. But one of my favorite collaborations that you and I ever did was you made that great Corlash deck for U.S. Regionals back in 2007, and
great quote unquote.
That was a phenomenal deck.
Okay, no, it was. Tell me more.
But you had kind of a weak spot to red green aggro, and you're like, oh, how do we deal with Scab Clan Mauler? And this is before people even figured out that Tarmogoyf was good, which was weird because it was legal. But they hadn't figured out it was good yet. And Volcanic Hammer was the answer. I go back
you
to that
suggested that one, man.
Yeah, that was
such good technology for that one.
That was just the cherry on top. You built the rest of the sundae. I was just, put a flaming cherry on top of that one. But, side note on that, my good friend and yours, Paul Jordan, played that deck at our regionals, and he made top 8 he cast Compulsive Research, got the Volcanic Hammers, and he just looked at his opponent, and they were supposed to be there for a Scab Clan Mauler. He's just like 6 ya. It's like one of the greatest stories ever. Because there were only 2, right? And they were really supposed to kill Scab Clan Maulers, but instead they put him into the top 8, and it was a heartwarming story.
Yeah. I mean, an opponent-warming story.
It was definitely an opponent-warming story.
With all these Riot cards in the set, you really can get a very all haste experience if you want. If you drop if you drop the Zhur-Taa Goblin on turn 2 and follow it up with a Gruul Spellbreaker on turn 3, I mean, a bunch of stuff is happening really fast. You know,
that guy is like basically Bogart Ramgang, which that's a card I would play.
Yeah, I'm here for the Ramgang.
So I think that probably we're not going to play Charging Monstrosaur. Probably not. That guy is, in fact, 66% of a Reality Smasher, but that last 33% matters a lot, apparently. But, there are a lot of decent hasters, and, add a little burn, and probably we can have more opponent-warming stories.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I just want to ride all the way up. Like Ravager Worm, man. Let's ride.
Ravager Worm? What's that one? He's 6?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's your choice. You get to choose up to 1. I don't know about this dude, but there is the new Stormbreath Dragon in terms of just more rioting. The Skargan Hellkite, the 3 red 4/4 riot with flying. With you can pay 3 in a red to deal 2 damage divided as you choose among 1 or 2 targets, and activate this ability only if this guy has a +1/+1 counter on it. So, you can drop him as a 4/4 flying haste right off the bat, right? So that's a pretty good amount right there, right? That's the Stormbreath Dragon without the goodies. But he's got the option to come down as a 5/5 flyer that you can pay 4 to deal to get a Forked Bolt. At instant speed to fire at will.
Ability, right?
It's amazing.
Oh, I mean,
planeswalkers, players, you can just 2 upstairs.
Creatures.
You can split it 2/1/1 tokens, anything, right? So, but it's not just limited to this 5/5 flyer that shoots things. 5/5 flyer that fires a lot, or 4/4 flying haste. If you put any +1/+1 counters on it from some other method, you can get the 4/4 flying haste on the way in to get a good crack, but then start shooting things because you put a +1/+1 counter on it.
Oh yeah, I mean, but there are innumerable thrives or whatever over the history of Magic that can theoretically just put a +1/+1 counter on something, and maybe some of them are good enough to play in Constructed. Especially if you've got a this card is very, very powerful if it's in 5/5 mode.
Oh yeah. And I mean, there's plenty of good options for how to to power this up, and we haven't even seen all that much of the new set yet. But there's gonna be different ways, whether it's something that we normally wouldn't think of that has extra purpose here, like Arbor Armaments, where it's basically 1 mana, give something a +1/+1 counter with a little bit upside. In this case, not much upside, but there might be stuff like that. But there might also just be some Planeswalker ability where you're just putting +1/+1 counters on your whole team.
Is there a land that comes into play tapped that you can put some +1/+1 counters on something these days? Are any of those legal right now?
Not that we've been playing, but we haven't seen this set yet. There are in Modern.
Yeah. Well, that guy's going to be exciting. But I think that our guy's also going to be exciting. My only question is, does this deck go in a deck with Llanowar Elves? I have been really surprised at the number of highly successful, specifically green-white decks, more aggressive green decks that just don't play Llanowar Elves. Yeah,
I mean, the Goblin Chain Whirler Menace is a real thing, but I think part of the reason that people haven't been playing Llanowar Elves, to some degree, is that you don't have Stomping Ground, you don't have Breeding Pool.
Well, we will have those very, very soon.
Exactly. I think that I think Stomping Ground is that's the natural pairing with Llanowar Elf.
I think that Skargan Hellkite might be very, very friendly with Llanowar Elf. I think those guys might be peanut butter and chocolate.
I think Skargan Hellkite loves coming down a turn early.
Yeah, I do.
Loves it, loves it, loves it, loves it. Do you think there's any realistic chance of an actual Goblin deck? Like, we talked about this briefly, but I mean, like, what would it take? Like, are there even enough incentives besides getting an extra untapped duel is, like, a real thing? And it's like there's enough Goblin, like, so many of the creatures you want to play are just Goblins anyway. Do you actually want to play any of the Goblin Lords?
Oh, the buffing Lord costs 4, right? That's the incentive, I think.
Yeah, I mean, there's also... What about the good old days when people played, give your Goblins haste and make them cost 1 less? I mean, none of the Goblins have any colorless in their cost, though.
Yeah, like the best Goblin is RRR, right? And then the other problem is that the expensive Goblins, they're just asking to walk into Clarion or Settle the Wreckage. So the decks that play those kind of cards have more kind of long game stuff instead of aggro stuff. They just want to be able to survive those kind of things. They're like, all right, you settled me, I Banefire you, right? I'm going to tap my treasure map. They're just not in that zone. I don't know. I think that the Goblin deck probably is behind like the regular creature decks in terms of just being able to interact on the battlefield, and is walking into the removal heavy decks that are the kind of the control-ish decks.
So you're just not into Siege Gang Commander at all?
I am. I might be on a lifetime low on Siege Gang Commander right now, despite its semi-popularity in Standard. Every time I cast it, my opponent just becomes a genius that they have Deafening Clarion in their deck. Like, oh, a 5-drop, Deafening Clarion.
See, I think the real Goblin payoff is the Valley Veteran. Building a Flame Tongue Kavu is just... That's a for real payoff,
Yeah, well, we'll see. If Goblins are going to be a thing, Zhur-Taa Goblin with some of those mana advantages that you noted, this is definitely a playable card. Incidentally, a Goblin, if it's coming in for free, maybe we can build not just a Flame Tongue Kavu, but just a Goblin community that comes together to light opponents up.
Quite possibly. All right, man. I'll see you next week.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Life didn't work so great. Tried to play Dredge, for jail or hate. Ghostly prison waiting for my untapped phase. Your core trapped in amber stasis state.